Alright, here's a RC I picked up with a few others last night right before the snowstorm hit, and after looking into it, it's based off of a Porsche 924, which I didn't know was a thing, I just knew of the 928. But anyways, it has pretty good detail for as old as it is, because it has some old Radio Shack batteries from it, or inside of it still. From everything I've seen, I don't know who made this yet because there's no identification other than just it's a licensed Porsche RC, but it only steers one way, and there's parts to show that it could turn the other direction, but it seems to be locked at the moment. But it even has a little suspension on the whole thing. It's something I haven't really seen before, but it'll be a really interesting rebuild. See you guys soon. Alright, how bad can this be? Well, it's not great, but definitely expected much worse. Alright. Oh, still haven't found any identifier on the board itself or anything underneath the body of this, but just wanted to show there was never any steering, but there are parts to where it could have been for another RC by chance. There's no reason to have had the hole there or any other semblance of just having parts to where a servo could have been mounted. But it was just one that reversed to basically turn and then you go forward again. So it was something in between a decent toy grade RC at the time, just because of it was a wireless RC, but it only had one control, so it was a one channel basically. Plan now is just further strip it down and scrub all the dead bugs off of it and such, then start putting it back together and see what we can do about making this a fully made or full RC this time. But overall, everything looks to be in very good condition, just filthy. See you then. At least I've got a view. Finally have a good reason to do the few dishes I had and start scrubbing everything of that Porsche. So, Jesse's somewhat buoyant, and for the most part, I'll just let it soak a little bit after scrubbing everything of it. Right side of cleaning all of this, doesn't smell like smoke anymore. It's at least worth noting because this thing smells horrible. So I unsoldered the board from the motor. Now I can actually get everything loose, check on the gearbox, which had no grease in it. I'll remedy that, and just clean it now in the sink. Out of curiosity, they ended up drilling a hole to support the motor, but not the actual idler gear that basically slows down the RPM of the spark. They decided to add a hole for either the pinion to basically pass through to have a support, or just because the motor was longer than they could work with. But I just find it odd that they didn't add an actual second hole to help support the load of the idler gear, which, if we can get this to pop on, you can see there isn't one. It's just bizarre. Found some equally as old grease to put grease in the gearbox. I don't think they ever had grease in. Should help prevent anything from getting destroyed. So, I managed to find a G-plug style Futaba receiver that even had the little protective film still on it that we'll peel off because it's always satisfying. And due to it being a Porsche, everything had to be overcomplicated, so the shape of the body did not allow me to mount the servo any closer to the front end, so we're using a old Kyosho steering piece that I don't really know what specific car it's from, that it makes it where our steering servo can be mounted much further back, while we can still have steering actually functional. So, and as well, we ended up making the upper mount for the knuckles, raising it about, I would say, 20 millimeters, or yeah, millimeters, then finding a piece of brass stock that was used to make our shim to get rid of most of the slop from the upper plate, as well as make it a longer stock for the knuckles to sit on, therefore giving us room to mount a spring, making it where we can now have suspension on the front end instead of just a lot of slop as it was. Overall, if we can get this on camera, this should do this. Ta-da! And then this. It's not much, but I'm just glad it works because there was nothing earlier. Alright, so here's everything ready to go with the RC. I just have to get the remote paired with the receiver now, and then the bike can go back on. So just made where the rear springs are softer, modern ESC, made my steering servo setup and tested it now. Everything should be ready to go. Steering trim is set now, and we have that. Should be fun. Alright, now it's time to clean the worst part of the car. This cleaned up pretty well. We're just seeing little bits of the rag on the bumper now, but cleaned all the fins of the grill and such, and there isn't really any blemishes of it. Now it's just a shell of the body itself. Alright, we have all the pieces reassembled to the body. I may or may not wax it yet, just due to what we can see of the clouding of the material just from age. But it cleaned up really well. So we may just leave it as it is. And now to try and cram the adapter into the tiny space.